Experience life in 1348 London. 24 hours during the bubonic plague outbreak. Just 24 hours. That is all it took for an entire world to collapse. Imagine waking up in a city where every breath could be your last, where the bells of churches never stop ringing, where the person standing next to you at dawn might not see the sunset. This is not a fantasy. This is not a nightmare you can wake from. This is London, the year 1348, and the darkness that swallowed. Europe has finally arrived at its gates. The story begins before the sun rises. The hour is somewhere near 5 in the morning, and the city is wrapped in a thick, cold fog that rolls off the Thames like a grey blanket. The air carries the sharp smell of wood smoke, damp straw and something else, something faintly sweet and deeply unsettling that has become the constant companion of every Londoner in these terrible weeks. Thomas Aldworth, a 32-year-old wool merchant, opens his eyes in the narrow upper room of his timber-framed house on Cheapside. His wife Eleanor sleeps beside him, her breathing shallow, not from illness, but from the kind of exhaustion that comes when fear never lets you truly rest. Their 2 children, William, 7, and Agnes, 4, are curled together on a straw pallet near the wall. Thomas lies still, listening. The city is quieter than it used to be. 3 months ago, Cheapside at this hour would already be stirring with apprentices hauling goods, cartwheels grinding, dogs barking. Now there is mostly silence, punctuated by the distant toll of a bell. He counts. 1, 2, 3. He stops after 7. Counting does nothing but feed the dread. He rises, pulls on his wool tunic, and descends the narrow stairs. Downstairs the fire has burned to embers. He coaxes it back with dry straw and split oak. On the table sits a loaf of bread going hard and a clay jug of ale. Beside it, a bundle of dried rosemary and thyme that Eleanor insists they keep burning. She heard from the wives at the well that the fragrant smoke might ward off the foul air carrying the sickness. Thomas is not sure he believes it, but certainty has become a luxury no one can afford. By 6, the first pale light filters through the windows. Thomas steps outside and immediately sees it. 2 houses down, a crude red cross has been painted on the door of the cooper's shop. That cross was not there yesterday. The cooper, Robert, had been perfectly well 3 days ago. Thomas had spoken with him about barrel staves. Robert had laughed and complained about his knees. Now the cross is on his door, which means someone inside has fallen ill, and no one may enter or leave. Thomas turns away and walks toward the river. His wool stores sit in a warehouse near Queenhithe, and he needs to check on them. The streets are thin. A few figures move through the fog like ghosts, faces wrapped in cloth. A woman hurries past with turnips, head down. A priest walks the other way, clutching a wooden cross, murmuring prayers. Near the corner of Bread Street, Thomas sees an abandoned handcart with shapes beneath a stained linen sheet. He crosses to the other side and quickens his pace. The Thames is grey and sluggish. Most boats sit idle, crews gone or unwilling to work. The fishermen who once crowded these banks are fewer now. Some fled to the countryside. Others simply disappeared. At the warehouse, Thomas finds his wool untouched. He runs his hand over the rough fabric and thinks about the Flemish buyers who never came. The ships stopped sailing weeks ago. If he cannot sell the wool within 2 months, he will not have enough coin to feed his family through winter. Check if you are already subscribed to this channel, because stories like this one, the kind that pull you into another time and make you feel every heartbeat of the people who lived it, these are what we bring you every single week. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss a journey. By mid-morning, the market at Eastcheap holds a handful of vendors. Prices have tripled. Flour that cost 2 pence now costs 6. Thomas buys barley, onions and salted pork, haggling half-heartedly with a gaunt vendor as desperate as himself. Near the far end, a crowd gathers around a wild-eyed man on a crate, shouting that the pestilence is divine punishment, that the end of days is here, that only repentance can save them. Thomas watches. Part of him wants to dismiss the man. Another, part growing larger each week, wonders if there is truth in those desperate words. The physicians have their theories about corrupted air and planetary alignments, but their remedies do nothing. When reason fails, fear rushes in. He arrives home to find Eleanor grinding herbs with a stone mortar. She tells him the Cooper Robert has taken a terrible turn. His wife was seen weeping at the window, calling for a physician who never came. The physicians still working charge fees only the wealthy can afford, and even then offer little more than false hope. Eleanor's hands tremble as she works. Thomas puts his hand on hers, and for a moment they simply stand there, holding each other up. Thomas tells her about the wool, the missing buyers, the dwindling money. Perhaps they should leave London, he says.
I cannot.
His cousin Geoffrey in Surrey might take them in. Eleanor shakes her head. The roads are dangerous, she says, not just from sickness, but from desperate men who have abandoned all pretense of law. Villages have sealed themselves off. Besides, the sickness is everywhere. There is no running from it. All they can do is pray, burn the herbs, and hope. The afternoon settles over London like a heavy hand. Thomas repairs a loose shutter, grateful for the distraction. From his ladder he can see St. Paul's spire rising above the rooftops. Below, a procession of flagellants passes, chanting and weeping. Thomas watches them with a mix of pity and something that might be envy. At least they have channeled their terror into action. At 3, a knock at the door. His friend John Taverner, a wine trader once known for his booming laugh, stands on the threshold looking 10 years older. He has come from the Guildhall. The city is losing dozens a day. The graveyards are full. New burial grounds have been consecrated outside the walls, vast trenches where the fallen are laid row upon row. Then John tells Thomas something worse. His apprentice Peter, 16, fell ill 2 days ago. The swellings appeared under his arms, hard and dark. Then the fever came. John does not say it, but Thomas can read the truth in his eyes. Thomas asks what John plans to do. John exhales and says he does not know. The sickness has reached Bristol, Southampton, the coast towns. It is moving inland on the very trade routes that once brought prosperity. Then John says something Thomas will remember forever. He says the world they knew is gone. Even if the pestilence ends tomorrow, nothing will be the same. The contracts, the social order, all of it is dissolving. When this is over, they will be living in a different world. John leaves. Thomas stands in the hallway, forehead against the wood. Upstairs, Eleanor sings a lullaby to Agnes, a simple melody about a shepherd and his flock. It cuts through Thomas like a blade. He wonders how many mothers across London are singing to their children right now. How many of those children will be alive next week? If this story is making you feel what it was like to live in those impossible times, tell me in the comments. Write this phrase: I would never have survived 1348. I want to know who is watching, who is feeling this. Supper is barley broth with onions and pork scraps by firelight. William asks why the bells keep ringing. Thomas tells him they ring for people going on a long journey to be with God. William asks if the Cooper Robert is going too. Something cracks in Thomas's chest. He says he does not know, but they should pray for Robert tonight. After the children sleep, Thomas and Eleanor share the last cup of ale by the fire. Eleanor tells him she visited the apothecary Simon that morning. Simon, who has practiced for decades, told her with tears in his eyes that he has never seen anything like this. He has no remedy, no explanation. He believes they are witnessing the end of an age. Thomas pulls Eleanor close and tells her ages do not end. They change. People endure. He is not sure he believes it, but hope, even fragile hope, is better than the void. Near midnight, a scream shatters the silence, sharp, piercing from the direction of the Cooper's house. Thomas goes to the window, another scream trailing into a wail that seems to contain all the grief of the city. Then silence. Thomas stands in the dark looking at his sleeping family and makes a decision. Tomorrow, he will begin preparations to leave London. He will hire a cart and horse, pack what they can carry, and take his family south to Geoffrey's farm. He does not know if it will be safer, but he cannot stay here counting bells, waiting for the cross on his own door. The decision brings calm. He plans through the night, sell wool at a loss for travel money, find the cart at dawn, tell Eleanor not as flight but as prudence. Sleep comes in thin slivers, and then it is morning. He rises in grey light, collects a horse and cart from a stable near Newgate at 5 times the normal price, and returns home. He tells Eleanor. She listens, nods, and says simply, "Then we go."
Yes.
No relief, only the resignation of a woman who has chosen the least terrible option. They spend the day preparing, sorting belongings, packing food, blankets, medicines, children's warmest clothes. Thomas counts coins, writes a letter to Geoffrey, sends it with a neighbor's boy. William climbs onto his father's lap that evening, something he had declared himself too old for. He asks where they are going. Thomas tells him the countryside, to see Uncle, Geoffrey's sheep. William asks if there will be boys to play with. Thomas says yes. The boy leans against his father's chest, listening to his heartbeat. Dawn. The fog is thicker, the smell stronger. Thomas loads the cart and looks at the house one last time. The place where he was born, married, watched his children's first steps. Eleanor stands beside him with Agnes on her hip and William holding her hand. She looks at the house, then turns away. We should go before the streets fill. The cart moves through Cheapside, past shuttered shops, marked doors, empty stalls. At the south gate, 2 young guards wave them through without questions. The city falls away. The air clears, carrying scent of wet earth and fallen leaves. William points at starlings wheeling across the grey sky. Agnes cries, but Eleanor soothes her with the shepherd's lullaby.
Look, darling.
At a crossroads, they pass a group of monks walking toward London, not away. They carry herbs and bandages, heading into the heart of the pestilence to tend the sick. A young monk with clear blue eyes nods to Thomas as he passes. No fear in his face, only quiet, resolute compassion. Thomas watches them disappear around the bend, then urges the horse forward. They stop once at a stream. William fights imaginary foes with a stick. Agnes toddles after him, laughing for the first time in weeks. Thomas and Eleanor sit on a fallen log eating bread, watching their children play, and for a moment, the world feels almost normal. Geoffrey's farm appears in late afternoon. A modest holding stone farmhouse, thatched roof, a flock of sheep. Geoffrey comes out, tall and weathered, registers surprise, concern, then understanding. He embraces Thomas and leads them inside without protest. His wife Maud sets extra places and ladles thick pottage. The children eat ravenously. Eleanor's rigid shoulders slowly drop. Thomas feels something unfamiliar. Gratitude. Pure, overwhelming, almost painful gratitude for this meal, this warmth, these people who opened their door without hesitation. If this story has moved you, hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. These stories deserve to be told, and these people deserve to be remembered.
I heard of it down south in Surrey.
After supper, Geoffrey tells Thomas the pestilence has reached larger Surrey towns, but spared the smaller villages so far. He offers shelter for as long as needed. There is work enough for 2 men, and spring planting will need extra hands. Thomas thanks him, voice rough. That night in the small upper room Geoffrey prepared, Thomas lies beside Eleanor and listens to silence. No bells, no screams, no terrible smell. Only wind in trees, distant sheep, and his wife breathing steadily in true sleep for the first time in months. Thomas does not know what tomorrow brings. He does not know if the pestilence will follow them here. He does not know if his Cheapside house will stand when he returns, or if the wool will ever sell, or if the world will ever make sense again. But his children are warm and fed. His wife sleeps peacefully. His cousin opened his heart without hesitation. These small, ordinary, magnificent things are worth more than all the wool in England. 24 hours, one rotation of the earth in a city besieged by the greatest catastrophe in human history. But within those hours, within the fear and grief, there were moments of tenderness, courage, and stubborn love. Thomas Alderworth was not a hero. He was an ordinary man doing the only thing an ordinary man can do when the world falls apart. He protected his family. He made a plan. He moved forward. The pestilence of 1348 would reshape European society entirely. It ended rigid feudal structures. It created labor shortages, giving common workers unprecedented power. It inspired new art, philosophy, spiritual questioning. It planted seeds of the modern world. But none of that mattered to Thomas on that October night. What mattered was the fire's warmth, his children sleeping, and the knowledge that he had made it through one more day. Sometimes, in the darkest of times, one more day is enough. If you watched until here, it is because this story touched something inside you. Leave a comment right now saying, "I watched until the end," so I can meet you and know who truly values the stories on this channel. Subscribe if you have not already, because every week we bring journeys into the past that will change how you see the present. Hit that like button and share this with someone who loves history, someone who needs to be reminded that humanity has faced the unimaginable before and survived. We always survive. Until next time.